she is with Demand Disruption, and we actually started working with Demand Disruption. I mean, I think I met you like a year ago now.
821.
Because she came out. She came out to speak at Walk for Freedom last year when we were raising awareness for human trafficking downtown. So that's when I met her, and since then I've learned a little bit about what she does and her heart, and then just what Demand Disruption does. So I felt like this is like the perfect parenting like 101 whenever culture is crazy right now, especially like raising kids in this culture. It's like gets scarier every day. So I was like, yes, please, let's have the class just for me, if anything else. But I know that there's so many people that would benefit from this, so I'm gonna go ahead and let her take it over, and we'll give her a round of applause.
All right, I do need the mic though, so I hope everyone can hear me. And in the back, if I need to project more, just keep giving me a thumbs up. That'll help my ego too. So yeah, okay, awesome. Good evening, everyone. First, thank you so much for coming here. I know it takes a lot of effort. You just dropped off the kids, and then you're about to come here, and I'm about to just completely like fire hose you with a lot of information tonight. But you know, I'm gonna try my best to pace and make sure we're having a good time, make sure we're learning from each other. My hope that by the end of these 3 weeks, we are all really good friends. We're all in this together, and that you can just take away a lot of really good tips, resources, and ultimately a friend that is gonna come alongside your church to be able to help you defend your home and raise kids in today's culture. And so, to introduce myself, my name is Fung Marquez. I work for Demand Disruption, and I work in this position called the Church Body Project Coordinator. And so what we envisioned at Demand Disruption is we were realizing that, you know, to really come alongside churches, we need to be able to have these workshops and formats, but also have a way to not be like, this is a school assembly, you come here and then I'm gone and you never hear from me again. The whole point of this is that, you know, we're journeying this together, and I hope to know your names by the end of this. I hope to know your struggles by the end of this, and connect you to more resources. And so, for Demand Disruption, we are an anti-trafficking organization. We focus on fighting demand. And what that looks like is there's kind of the boots on the ground, where we're at the point of arrest with buyers, and then also doing intervention at illicit massage businesses. And so we'll touch on that just a little bit because this is a defend home class, and you're already thinking, why is this girl talking to me about like this stuff, and I'm here to, you know, learn things about my kids. I'll get there, I promise. Before I came into Demand Disruption, my background, I worked over 10 years with teen trafficking survivors. And so I worked a lot with at-risk youth, rehabilitating them, helping them with restoration care, things like that. I also dabbled in education. I'm currently in my master's program getting my master's in curriculum and instruction. And so I'm hoping just to use all of that to help our church partners and come alongside you with this material. So let's begin. So at Demand Disruption, we think of this word defend. And defend, I think I need to clarify after meeting this gentleman here at the front that it's not, you know, guns and rifles essentially. Although I know we're in Texas, but truly the word defend for us is to live in truth and love with others. Yes, thank you. To live in truth and love with others. Essentially looking out for not just your own individual home, which is super, super important, but also looking out for your neighbors' homes, looking out for all the people that are on the street, the families that are here right now. Like I've been here a handful of times, and I can already tell from just the size of this church, there's even so, just the size of this church, there's so many close relationships already in here, just good friendships. And so just wanting to build upon that. And in our work, we call our volunteers defenders because we do just that. And so we focus on demand reduction strategies in two different ways. We eliminate buyer motivation, and we reduce buyer access to the exploited. And so when we do this, we ask two questions in our line of work. Why would someone want to buy another person? And then why is it so easy and acceptable for someone to do so? And so when we think about anti-trafficking work and we think about all of what I just presented to you right now about demand and what that looks like at the point of arrest, we realize that a man doesn't just wake up one day and is like, I'm gonna go to the red light district of Houston and I'm gonna purchase sex. Like, that's not what happens, right? He started somewhere and that led him to this place. And so to truly understand, why someone gets to this point and why it's relevant to you, we have to go a little further back. So at age 18, it's almost normal these days, right? It's a part of like a rite of passage where an 18-year-old man, usually male, this is when they make their first strip club visit, right? And this might be even the testimony of some people in here, and unfortunately it's all going into this hypersexualized culture where we've normalized some things. And so it's important that we recognize these ages of vulnerability and be aware of this timeline and how it's affecting your lives. And so moving over to the female, which we know that male is usually the demand side and female is the vulnerable side, but there's of course men that are also victimized and women that are also the exploiters in some situations, unfortunately. But this is kind of the standard, that the understanding that we're going to work off of today. So at age 18, this is when girls are aging out of the foster care system. And only just recently did the Department of Family and Protective Services in the past couple of years recognize that there is a lot of vulnerabilities where exploiters are understanding that this is a very vulnerable group. And I'm so sorry. I'm going to make sure that I have everything on silent. That this is a vulnerable group and they're almost ripe for that kind of exploitation. And so when we recognize that there's this vulnerability here at age 18, we go further back still, that at age 15, 90% of males have seen pornography either intentionally or unintentionally. And then for the female, 35% of people that have entered into the life of human trafficking, they entered between the ages of 15 to 17. So what this means is that in a room of 100 people that have overcome trafficking, 35 of them have entered between the ages of 15 and 17, and this is the largest group. For me personally, I've worked with teen trafficking survivors that were trafficked at the age of 7 and 9. And so this definitely goes younger still, and we understand and we see that it has this tie-in to at age 12, where this is for most students now, unfortunately, this is when they're getting their first smartphone. And unfortunately, in that they almost have to at this point, especially after COVID and the advent of online school, online learning, there's so much more needed access for our young ones to technology in order to learn. And so, this is important to note in contrast to the female, where this is when U.S. girls are first exploited. And when we say exploited, we mean unwanted touch, abuse, harassment, all of this. And then we start off at the beginning of this timeline, at age 9, where this is the average age of exposure to pornography. And the saddest part of that statement to me, the most heartbreaking part, is that that's the average age. And so we have kids now younger than that are accidentally being exposed to pornography. And so we're not saying that, you start off at age 9 being exposed to pornography, you end up, at age 21 at the point of arrest after having solicited prostitution. But we are saying that there is someone in your life that might be on this timeline somewhere. And if you and your family is fortunate not to be on this timeline, you know someone who's on this timeline. And so that's so important that we can intervene at these ages of vulnerability so that we can disrupt this timeline from a person starting at age 9, getting to age 21. And so these are the 3 dangers of a hypersexualized culture that we're going to be covering within these 3 weeks. The first, we're going to be talking about digital threats, especially, as I mentioned earlier, with how our youth and their access to technology. What does that look like? What does that mean? We're going to kind of go through this today. Today is going to be a lot more informational, but at the same time, I feel that it is very important that we lay the groundwork for next week, where we're going to be doing a lot more interactive workshopping, and we'll be doing a lot more writing. So if you didn't bring something to write on this week for journaling, or if you don't carry that with you naturally like me, because I always do that, I'm very like pen and paper type person, be sure to bring something like that next week, especially if you write a lot, like I do, because I'm very wordy, as you can tell already. So, the second thing we're going to talk about is objectification. You know, what is shown to our kids these days, and what's even shown to us, and what does culture tell us what it means to be a child, a teen, a man, and a woman is very different to what we want for a child, a teen, a man, and a woman, and more importantly, what God has said about all of these identities. And third, we're going to talk about just unhealthy relationships and how does this play into this hypersexualized culture and what you can do in talking to your kids, especially those of you that have older kids. How can we talk about this with them? And so this is the connection, essentially. This is exactly why I am here, why an anti-trafficking organization is talking to you about this specific topic. And so this is your connection. No one's going to argue with me that we currently are living in a very hypersexualized culture. I haven't found a proposal yet, so try me, no kidding. So when you have a hypersexualized culture, there's a lot of porn usage and even then just other things that we're being exposed to. That equals to demand. And when we have demand, we have the buyer of commercial sex. And to put it in a crass way, but it's economics. When you have demand, this creates supply. And when there's so much demand, the supply has to answer to this demand, and the supply is often fulfilled via trafficking. And so, you know, in this work, when we say that we're an anti-trafficking organization, a lot of people think of like the movie Taken, or like, you know, some of the things that I mentioned earlier today about, you know, going into like, you know, Bissonnette Street, where that's considered the red light district of Houston. It's actually this right here, coming to our workshops, having conversations with your kids, having conversations with teens in your life, being proactive in that prevention part so that we can avoid both the demand aspect of the hypersexualized culture and also the vulnerable aspect of being groomed and targeted. And so this is the roadmap for the series. Today, day 1, we're going to do who is talking to us about porn. Day 2, how to talk about pornography. And day 3, house rules and tech responsibilities. All right, so I said I was going to fire hydrant all of you with a lot of information. And so I just wanted to take a minute here just to make sure that first we all take a deep breath.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. And then just to ask and see if there are any questions so far about what I've presented to you. Okay. Anyone? Yes.
So a while ago you said that the demand equals buyer of commercial sex. So commercial sex meaning is that like actual prostitution or?
Okay, so for commercial sex and prostitution, you know, you kind of have to separate this word almost, because trafficking is the forced fraud and coercion of people into this life.
Sure.
And so when we think prostitution, sometimes we think 18 plus, like someone, like, you know, they're an adult, they can go into this, but actually a lot of them, and especially the ones I worked with, working with teen victims, is that they enter into this age much younger.
Right.
And so buyer commercial sex is that when they just go in and they buy a person.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's not going to the video store or something like, it's actually.
Actually, yes, going to a illicit massage business or a strip club or a business of that type. I saw, yes.
Is there going to be a copy of your slides or some way, because I can't write fast enough?
I'm so sorry. Okay.
Can you take a picture of it?
The reporting, will that be shared? Okay.
We're gonna post the recording.
Okay.
Yeah. We're working on the recording, and then also, yes, especially for those of you that are sitting back there, if you need to whip out your phone and take a picture of anything, like just raise your hand or give me a thumbs up, I will stop. And also, am I sounding okay back there? Okay, good, thank you. All right. I just want, however comfortable you are, I just want to kind of see where we all at a little bit. So raise your hand if you have like elementary school age kids in here. Wow, okay, huge chunk of us. And then what about middle school? Okay, almost even. And then high school. Any adults? Any adult children? Okay, all right. Man, we need to talk to those people. Okay. Now that's really, I actually really love the fact that it's almost like an equal distribution, because wherever you're at, it looks different. It looks different from age to age, to grade, and it will even look different from house to house. In education, we talk a lot about the growth mindset, and so the idea is that by the end of these 3 weeks, you'll feel, hopefully, under great teaching and guidance, that you will have more of what you think it takes to be able to have these conversations with your kids at home. So, okay. That being said, let's also take a moment to acknowledge that you came here for a certain person, child, student, mentor in mind. It'd be very helpful, just as a reminder, just to write their names down if you'd like to, and just think about them throughout these 3 weeks and how you would approach them and all of the strategies that we'll be teaching to you. So just wanting to encourage that we're reflective and we're not afraid, and that this is not about shaming anyone as parents, as teachers, as coaches, as mentors. This is about equipping and empowering you to be able to feel that confidence to be able to tackle this issue. Okay. All right. Day 1. I want to ask you, what's going on, or what do you think is wrong with this fish? Any takers? What's wrong with the fish?
It's not taking the bait.
It's not taking the bait? Okay.
Doesn't look interested.
He doesn't look interested. Y'all are really deep. These are not the answers I was expecting. Okay, let me phrase that better, I guess. Man, I gotta be prepared next week when I come. Okay, deep.
It doesn't have fins.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, anyway, I've lost. Y'all are much wittier and better than me. Okay, so the idea is that this fish is going towards the bait. And the concept is that, like fish, we're going towards things that are attractive to us. Like the fish is going towards what is attractive to it, and it's doing what it's biologically made to do. Very similarly, we as adults and our kids are the same way, without being aware of what's truly going on around them, of what danger is lurking behind. Because we run into situations like this, where this is a billboard. For those of you who might not be able to see, it's a billboard of Pornhub, and this billboard is in New York, off of the busiest street in New York. And it's about like a couple stories high, really high up there, and you're on vacation. You're in New York for the first time, you're walking with your kids, and you look up and you see this billboard. And now you have to have this conversation with your kids. And, did we consent to that? Did you consent at all to this, being shown to your family? No, of course not. But that also begs the question, like I said, are we ready and prepared to have those conversations? And so it's important. It's important to really, truly understand what kind of threats are we really talking about here. Okay, I hope that this goes well and that y'all don't outwit me again. But okay, so we're gonna play a game. It's Google or porn. So I'm gonna read one of these statements, and then you get to tell me if it's Google or porn, and I kind of already know where this is gonna go. So it's accessed by billions around the world. Has successfully monetized instant gratification for you to use, but is one of the world's richest organizations. See, I already knew where this is going. Okay, all right, I'm just gonna keep on doing this. All right, so annual revenue of worth billions and billions worldwide. You don't need a personal ID, age, content limits to searches. It's used by children at a very early age, and the revenue and use has increased every year since its creation. And yes, it is both for all of these. And I just want that to sink in at the moment, because how much did it cost you for your last Google search? Nothing, right? So very similarly, this industry, it does not care. It's out there, it's very easily accessible, easy to find, and that's the reason why this is so important. And even in the work that we are doing at Demand Disruption, we are trying to make porn a mental health issue, like for the state to declare that, and we're not quite there yet, apparently. And so when we do start doing that, we're gonna rely on awesome people like you guys, who obviously knows what's up, and help us out in that. And so that's just one porn site, but now there are 40 million sites, and then there's over 2 billion pages, and this is and growing. And then there's 30% of all internet searches are porn related. But this is not just the porn industry. More than half of 11 to 13-year-olds have encountered porn. 62 of these children have done so unintentionally. And we have to wonder why and really think about it, right? Maybe not anymore, especially with apps. I mean, some of these, I don't even know what they are. And then we also have to consider too, like the advent of like short stories, what's being shown to us in these algorithms, and also our kids, because it's also in our homes, unfortunately. This is a Netflix account from a wife of someone who's on staff with us. She very kindly let us use her account for this example. But of course, she's watching Virgin River, The Great British Baking Show, Kim's Convenience, things like that, right? And but then we see in her account that there's these suggestions. And there's this huge misconception that with algorithms, it's what you like and what they're giving and showing to you. It's actually what these industries want to show you based off of your demographic, your age, even where you live. And so it's important that we understand how these apps and the internet and technology and how this works, so that we can really combat this issue. Okay. I know, not Virgin River. I'm gonna give us a little bit of a pause right here, because I really, again, just really thrown a lot at you.
So you're saying that when you have the different accounts on your like Netflix or like Hulu, that even though our kids have a separate account, that feeds into our algorithms, feed into their account? Is that what you're saying?
Sometimes it's I can't say confidently for sure, but there have been many parents that have come up to me and told me that your kids, my kids have the safest, security, strictest things on there, but even then something will pop up on their account, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is this?
On purpose.
And so that's how, unfortunately, some of these things work, is that it's what these apps, what they want to show us based off what our demographics are and what we've used,
Even past the parent controls?
even past parent controls, like that's happened.
I want to say one thing, because we still have Netflix, but I'm the only one that has access to it. It took me literally 3 hours to figure out the settings in my TV, to figure out how to put a passcode so that my kids will not be able to surf the web on our TV, to get on any, or to add any apps, or they only get Disney and Pureflix, that's it. They don't even get it on YouTube, because it was, that YouTube was my biggest thing, was there's just so many things that pull up in there, and it just pop up.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy, and I was like, well, there has to be a way to figure this thing out. It literally took me 3 hours one night, where I figured how to go into my settings and put a password, so none of my kids get into it. They're only able to access what I allow.
Yes, and so for some of you that might not have heard that in the back, thank you so much for sharing. Is it okay if I? Okay, so what's your name?
Maria.
Maria. Okay, Maria shared at the front here that it takes a lot, because this technology does not. It makes you have to go through a lot of effort
Yes.
to be able to set these controls in the first place. And so we have to have this kind of mindset going into this issue, that it takes a lot of work. But even still, we live in a crazy, crazy city where we're really busy, where there's a lot of things going on. Life happens, right? And so what do we do? Because, we're not perfect. We can't be in control of everything all the time. We're not omnipresent. We're not God, right? And so that's the reason why it's so important, that because unfortunately this will happen most likely at some point, if it already hasn't happened, where there's an unintentional exposure to something that they shouldn't be seeing. And that's the reason why it's so important that we're ready to have these conversations with them in preparation for that. Because if we're not, then it just builds, and then eventually it turns into a problem. So I'm a little teaser for next week, but thank you so much for sharing. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I want to just give us a little bit of space to just kind of, let's maybe high five the person next to you. Let's do the church thing. Let's high five and say hi to the person next to us. Find out the person's name. I know I'm not being COVID friendly right now, but it's all right. It's all right.
I didn't get mine.
You guys, I love you guys. This church, y'all are awesome. Okay, and then just to preface this next slide, sometimes in the work, I get a little desensitized by the material that we kind of deal with, and so I just want to make sure that I prepare you guys mentally for the next slide. It's a little difficult to absorb. And so also throughout any of this, if you feel this is a safe space, if you feel like it's just a little too much and you need a breather, please, do what you need to do to feel safe, to be able to absorb this information. And so, with that being said, hope we're okay. Maybe everyone give me a thumbs up if we're all okay to move on to the next slide. Okay, if you need another minute. Okay, good. Okay, awesome. My teacher side comes out a lot, and when I do this, and so just pardon me if I do sound a little teachy. I know this is the last thing we need tonight. Okay, so this is the 2021 statistics for Pornhub, and this is public information. This is easily accessed. They publish this every year. Unfortunately, it's almost like they're proud of these statistics, and so we need to make sure that we know what we're going up against. And so for 2021, these are the visitor demographics. And you see here in this pie chart, the largest age range that you see for visitors is 18 to 34, with 25 to 34 years old being like the biggest chunk, with almost 18 to 24 being an equal amount. So for those of you who want to take a picture of this, this is your time. Yes, okay. And then also traffic by gaming consoles. Like, how many of you have a gaming console at home right now in your house? And then the most upsetting thing, I think, is this chart right here. So unfortunately, they curate content based off of video games. And so, you know, you have like Minecraft, Fortnite, Pokemon. Like, these are the things that they're creating, which tells me, like, you know, who are they making these for exactly? And so just wanting you to be prepared and acknowledging what we're going up against.
Who's creating? Yes.
Pornhub, they're, yeah.
Pornhub had part in creation of Fortnite?
No. They are creating material that is based off of the characters of
Oh, like
Fortnite.
role play and stuff like that kind of thing? Is
That-
where we're going?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure my mind's right.
Yeah.
That's not the creation
Please,
video.
clarifying questions whenever needed. And I know this group got it. If you have a question, you're gonna tell me. I love the head nods, yes. Okay, any questions about this?
What
Yeah.
was traffic? I'm sorry. Did you have a question first? Oh, traffic by game console. What is that?
So this is, I believe, this is the visits per gaming console types. So you have PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo.
So they're searching for porn while on the video game
Yeah.
system? I like the Nintendo limits.
Sorry?
I like the Nintendo limits. Right there.
There you go. Any other questions?
Right.
I mean, any device that.
Any device that's
has
access to the internet.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this is who is talking to us, right? But what are they telling us exactly? And so we have to sit and think about it for a moment. What does a culture really tell us what it needs to be, and insert your identifier, right? So we'll say person, but what does it tell you to be a man or a woman in movies, TV, radio, podcasts, streaming services, gaming consoles, social media, print media. Someone here I think said Victoria's Secret earlier. Like, these are things that we need to consider, like, what is culture telling us? What does it mean to be? And enter in the identifier. And when we really sit and think about it for a moment, we can be really shocked, right? And so, man, this group, I'm excited to do this. Okay, so we'll just do a little exercise, and maybe we can do a little bit of group work actually, because I'm curious to see. At your tables, we're going to use man. So what does culture tell us it means to be a man? And you're going to come up, maybe at each table, come up with two. What does culture tell you what it means to be a man? And then, now think about your ideal man, right? So those of you that have like teenage daughters in here, and you know, they're like, hey mom, you know, I have a boyfriend at school, right? What do you want for, you know, ideally like a partner for your daughter? Like, what would the ideal person be? So 2 characteristics. Yes. We're being very like general right now, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys about like 5 minutes.
A lot of women.
It's been a long day. Okay, I'm gonna.
Okay, one more minute, your 1 minute warning. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys just a couple more seconds to wrap up your thoughts, have your answers ready. All right, let's come back together. Let's come back together and let's share some answers. All right. Okay, so the one that can have the most like volume in the back. I want to start back first. Yes. Can share. Okay.
Oh, for what culture says?
Yeah, what culture says?
It should be non-emotional.
Non-emotional, that's really good. I'm really just taking answers for my material. This is learning for me. All right, non-emotional. And then what about your ideal man? From the back still. Yes.
A man of God first.
A man of God. Yes. Thank you, brother. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Let's do this next two tables here.
Okay, so we said that men are basically like the problem. They're in culture, right? That they're the problem for everything. They did everything wrong in the past, and they're ruining the future. They're toxic.
Right. Okay. That was deep. That's really good. Yeah, I agree. That's an angle I haven't even really thought about. But yes, men are sometimes really often thought of as like the problem in the culture and how like they portray men versus how they portray women. Did I say that wrong? I'm
No,
so
you
sorry.
said it exactly right. You just wanted to add one thing.
Yes.
That they're incapable of controlling themselves, and that's why they're allowed to look at pornography.
Okay.
Because it's not a big deal. They just can't control themselves.
Yes.
They're weak.
I'm about to hire some people on my team. Yes. Yes, that's so good that they're incapable of control, and that's the reason why it's almost like normalized in culture that, that they just, watch pornography. That's a part of it. All right, how about this table over here? What about another ideal example? Did we come up with one?
That it's okay for them to have multiple sex partners. That's what makes them mad.
Yeah, so culture says that it's okay for them to have multiple partners. All right. This table here, maybe you can give me an ideal man, a characteristic of an ideal man. What scripture says. Awesome. Okay. Over here. Whichever one.
Well, culture says that, we have to be okay with, gender identification now.
All accepting, all tolerant.
All accepting, all tolerant, right. And then, do you have one for an ideal characteristic?
Well, I have a daughter, so
Yes.
I want somebody to, treat her the way I treat my wife, so love her, take care of her, put her first. Well, God first, then her. Yes.
I love this theme. It keeps coming back. We need to keep hearing it though. Okay, I'm gonna save you guys for last. All right. This table over here. Do you guys have something to add for both sides?
I want you to say it.
Oh yes.
Okay, so on the what culture says side, I said defeminization.
Defeminization. Right. Oh good. Yes. Defeminization. And then the ideal side? Transparent. Oh, I love that. That's really good. Yeah, like there's really like nothing that, men can't do, right, to like be feminine. Like that's really good. Okay, over here. I'm really saving up for last. All right, over here. Do you guys have anything?
What culture says
Mm-hmm.
that it's normal.
It's normal. Yes, exactly.
We said also like men can just be whatever they want to be.
That's right.
It's all accepting. Somewhere to that table.
Okay, I saved y'all for last. Don't disappoint me.
The pressure's on.
We said the boss for sure
The
in
boss,
culture.
yes.
The boss, the leaders, the dominant ones.
Right.
Yeah, especially in the Hispanic culture, macho.
Yes.
Yeah.
No feeling, can't show any feeling, especially, we're talking about our culture, right? And I think we're all touching what our kids are dealing with now, where they identify with that statement. What do you identify as?
Yeah.
When has that, when have we as parents in our culture even had that question? Now that question is so just normal, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew it. And then, do you guys have anything to add for the ideal?
Man, he better come correct with loving Jesus and his life better show it. If you can't quote me the 10 Commandments, he ain't dating my daughter.
Yeah.
Kind of the opposite of like the boss and unfeeling is tender, loving,
Yeah.
generous, all the things that depict the qualities of God,
Right.
according to the scripture and what God is putting into the man, so he's following God and exhibiting those qualities.
I love this. I love all of this. Thank you so much
They gotta be
for
able to talk about their feelings
right.
to their partner. They gotta be, they said transparent, but it's gotta be received too.
To be able to be emotional
Yeah.
and be able to communicate that safely, whereas culture says, nah.
Don't make fun of
Keep
you.
it to yourself.
Keep it to yourself.
You can hold on. It's over there.
That's right. No, that's
Or
right.
don't be emotional.
Yeah.
So good. So good. I saw a hand back there.
They say, the Bible says in an ideal man, he is a provider. But granted, the culture says if that man is not making money and he's not idolizing money, he's not really a man because he's not providing for his family. They actually got it backwards. And the culture's confusing the younger men of our generation. Like, I'm gonna go get this money in the most ungodly way. I'm gonna just say it that way, and they will find any way to make it, regardless of the consequence. And then we have our younger generation that is continuously populating the prison system, and they don't have rights, and things are being taken from them continuously, and all that's given to them is their sword, is the Bible.
Yes.
So it allows them to be corrected in that situation, but if we had started in the root and they would have grown up in the church, and then, I myself, like, if it had been that situation, even with my own brother, things would have been very, very different, and he would have been an ideal man.
Thank you so much for sharing. That means a lot. It's definitely hard whenever we think about these issues now and what our kids are going against, when this is what we're going up against. Basically, everything that culture is telling us what it means to be a man, essentially, and then what is our ideal. And we can repeat that. Like I said, we can do this exercise with women. What does it mean for women? What does it mean for teens, especially these days with all that's going on? And we touched on it a little bit. And then even like you brought it up. Thank you for bringing it up. Like we're in Houston, right? We're one of the most diverse cities in the U.S. and coming along with it, community, generational, cultural standards, like our ethnic cultural standards too, that we have to consider. So when we really sit back and we think about this, it's a lot. But we hope that, in having these conversations, we can go against some of what culture is telling us is normal and making them out to be what exactly they are, their lies, and really reestablishing what is the truth in our homes, especially in their identity, which their identity as a house and as children, that we're, sons and daughters of God, and that we are worthy, and that this, all of what culture is telling us to be lies is not true, that there's no foothold for this. And so we did this exercise actually in our program at Demand Disruption. We have a rehabilitation program for buyers. So people that have been arrested, we are at the point of arrest, and we kind of walk through similarly what I'm kind of telling you today, the timeline, what kind of got them to this point. And then we walk through with them this journey of healing, restoration for them, for their wives, their betrayed partner, who's usually a wife, and even sometimes their children, because everyone is affected in this situation. And we realize too, especially in the work that we do, that these buyers in media and in culture and what people are saying, like, they're not exactly heroes, of course, right? But they're fathers, like they have families, and this all plays into how it affects the next generation. And so when they're answering this is their answers. They're saying that culturally, what it means to be a man, macho, independent, don't need help, born is normal, all the things that we said, right? And then they said themselves, they recognize that, they need to be willing, what their ideal is, that willing to be emotional, vulnerable, treating women with respect and equality. And so, this is ringing true to people that are extremely broken and that have gone through this cycle of making decisions that have really hurt and impacted a lot of other people and also their families. So if you're interested, slight plug, if you're interested in volunteering and helping one of these broken men in our program, we'd love for you guys to get involved. And we also do this for betrayed partners as well, because unfortunately the betrayed partner is also working through a journey of shame and guilt. And so we asked, the betrayed partners as well, for women, what do you see? What does culture tell you that, means to be a woman, and what does it mean to be a man? Oh, a woman, sorry. Anyway, okay, so we're almost near the end, you guys. I'm gonna make sure we wrap this up real good. Okay, so going back to this timeline, it's no wonder that this is important that we are addressing this right now, right here. Like, you are starting this journey of understanding first what all of it is out there that you're going up against, and then what you yourself can do, because this is affecting your kids. We did this survey recently at a church camp. This is high school boys. So we surveyed them anonymously, and they were willing to answer. 65% of them say that every day they struggle, that they're addicted. And even the lesser categories, 23% say they slip up sometimes, but not that much. And so it's already affecting our kids in a church, right? And then here we have a quote by an 8th grader. I don't know one person in my school that doesn't look at porn. And the reason why that's important to note, because this is the same survey, we surveyed middle school boys. And so middle school boys, you see the numbers are very similar as well. 58% of them were able to say, every day I struggle, I am addicted. And even the other category, 22% said, friends look, but I don't. And so just going back as a little bit of a review, again, like this is why I'm here. This is why Demand Disruption does the work that we do in trying to prevent these things from happening, is because of this connection. We live in a pornified culture, and it equals to demand. Demand equals to the buyer of commercial sex. This creates supply, and the supply is fulfilled via trafficking. And so, in summary, these are all the things that we covered for this week. This is the time, if you'd like a copy of this, you could take a picture. I will be here for a while too, as well, I'm sure, talking to some of you. And so I'll make sure to leave this up. And so if you want to take a picture of this before you leave today, or you can also reach out to me via my email. I'm more than happy to share this screen with you specifically. And so I want to give us some time just to first breathe, because I gave you all a lot of information, like I said. Next week, we are going more into the workshop format, where we're going to be looking at, tips and resources and working through how do we talk to our kids about these issues. And week 3, my director, Joe Madison, will join me, and he is just a treasure trove of knowledge of the boots on the ground approach to intervention, how to work with buyers, how to address these issues, being at the point of arrest, and all that he's doing in legislation as well. And just like I said, a treasure trove of knowledge. And so week 3 will be very enlightening, especially we'll also touch a little bit too on grooming and what to do in those situations. And so those are just kind of little teasers for week 2 and week 3. But before we're really done, I just want to give us an opportunity just to ask any questions that I could answer. I will try my best to answer them as best as I can, and if not, I will try to find the people that can answer them for you, and you just have to come back to get the answer from me. So, any questions?
I have a question, just a comment. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you and thank Grace, because, as parents, we have 3 children, 16, 13, and 10. The 2 older ones, we've talked to them about virgin meetings and, get them ready, because they're in high school or transitioning into high school. And she just made a comment like, we've never talked to our kids about porn, because we've never thought about that. It's that easily accessible. I mean, now, like you said, it's pick up a phone and you can search it. It's almost the same thing as Google. So this is kind of like the perfect timing for us to talk to our 2 boys and kind of like gear them up. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I will just say this about Yale's Church too, in what I do, it's difficult. It's difficult for a church to just stop and be like, this is a really difficult topic. We're not really quite sure how our parents will receive this, but we love them and we want to be able to have this equipping tool for them. And just being able to have the courage to do that, like, that's awesome. I mean, this room is packed. Like, thank you. Like, this is fuel for me. So, thank you. Any other questions?
I'm going to piggyback on that question. Any tips or how to even initiate a conversation with a younger child on even, how do you even start that conversation? Like, hey, there's an industry called porn, and this is what, I can't wrap my head around how to start that conversation.
First, what's the age that you're?
7 to 12.
Okay. So I will say,
without having to prematurely expose her. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yes. No, that's great.
They have phones.
Huh?
They have phones.
Yeah, but they have no social media at all.
They have
They
internet?
have no internet, no,
No internet?
no,
What about YouTube?
no.
No
I
Wi-Fi.
would just say,
No.
I would just say, not, I wouldn't say it's
Yeah.
a direction to you, but in general, they have phones and they've already been exposed to it.
No.
I will, not to sound like this, but I will piggyback off of what this gentleman said over here. Unfortunately, our kids are maturing and growing up really fast now. And in order to really answer that, I think straightforward and honesty and a safe and controlled environment where you get to control the narrative is extremely important. Because unfortunately, even at 7 years old, there's already most likely exposure that has already happened. And so the sooner that we can create that atmosphere where, you know, all parties are safe and you can control the narrative, that's my suggestion, is literally just kind of start somewhere. And so next week, we'll kind of walk through more of what that would look like for you specifically. Hope that helps. I know that didn't really help, but yeah. Right over here.
I was just gonna say, as a parent of teenagers, we have these discussions extremely early, because you don't know, your child might be 5 years old and hanging out with another 5-year-old, but their sibling is 11, 12 years old, whereas your other one's 2, 1, babies. So you don't know what conversations they're having, hanging out with friends or whatever, but our kids' first exposures were through iPads, doing homework, looking up words on the dictionary, but then being silly, ooh, let me go type in butt. And then all the stuff at very young ages. It just, and they're like, you know, you see the look. You're not looking at what they're looking at, but you see the look on their face and no. And so, I mean, to get to that topic, we just was, hey, you know, how's homework going? Have you ever come across anything that makes you uncomfortable when you're, you know, for us it was just being straightforward, like you said. I might not say, did you see pictures of sex? Like, well, okay, what's that? If they don't know those things, but did something make you uncomfortable, or would you tell me if something was uncomfortable?
Right. No, those are already really great.
Fat paper dictionary at Sam's.
Yeah. Alright, it's 8:06. Maybe one or two more questions, or okay.
I just wanted to share, so even outside of the internet and social media, they still were able to target our son's cell phone, because he had no internet, no apps, any of that, but they still text him.
Yeah.
They still text him, click here and see free, big, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know, and so you have to you're laughing, but I had to, he's but I had to literally go to the word block box and block all kinds of different words just so he wouldn't receive those text messages. So, and I was just sharing with the ladies here that, you know, I know he spent 3 hours trying to get parental control set on that, but there's YouTube videos teaching the kids how to go, so it's just, you gotta just, it's like you said in the beginning, we really just have to pay attention to what's going on in our kids' lives. What content are they watching or looking at, and who are they surrounding themselves with?
Yeah, exactly.
That's important.
Thank you. All right, I'll take.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. This is great.
Oh, okay. I'm here all night. All right, this lady here with yeah.
Hi. I teach first grade, and you would not believe the conversations I already hear.
Right.
And they're 6. So I have to tell parents, and that is so uncomfortable. So yeah, what Dina was saying, definitely pay attention to who their friends are, what they're doing, what they're looking at. And then I took it this summer before school started. I have 20 girls that are 13, and I knew that they were going to be talking about this in PE, all the sex ed and all that. And I said, oh no, before they start teaching them, I'm going to tell them, what's going on. So, because they have a lot of friends who are identifying as everything, and I was like, oh no, I'm going to talk to you first.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for teaching. daycare?
Yes, my son had an incident when he was in the first grade where a little girl was, whatever she was eating, describing whatever it was, you know? So even the food, I mean, they've had a lot of that.
Right.
So it's sad, but it's out there.
Exactly. Gentleman over here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've been looking into computers and I'm learning a lot about them right now, and there is a lot of experience that children have at young ages that we don't have.
Right.
That we were never exposed to. So even putting a password on your computer, they can bypass that by going to the command center, look at your password visually, and just type it in. And they can go in as an administrator. It's so simple, and they can create, administrator hidden accounts. And they know this stuff just by looking at YouTube. It says it on there, that's where I'm learning most of my stuff at. And it's insane, like the ways that you can bypass things, and kids just know about it. Like, that's common culture to them, like us playing basketball or baseball in the street back in the day.
Right.
So, no matter what you do, I mean, you may not be able to put firewalls up, enough firewalls to block it. So I think talking to them is the best thing. That's why I joined this class. I wanted to be here. I took the day off work to make sure I made it here on time.
Thank you. Yes, Father, yes. I love that. All right. I'm just with these last 3 questions of these 3 ladies that have their hand raised, and really that will be it for tonight, though. But so, okay, over here.
I just want to tell you, especially parents that have younger kids, start right now, like yesterday. Focus on the Family says if you haven't started talking to your kids about sex by the time they're 6, someone else already has.
Yes.
So as the conversation starts in the home, and it's a heart issue, if they already know that bodies are sacred and that should be treated with respect and, you know, all of those things that God created, then when they see that, it will be wrong to them. They will look at that and they will say, this is wrong. And they'll tell you. You won't have to ask them. They'll tell you because they will already understand and know it's wrong. So if you have little kids, Focus on the Family offers great information. It's usually free or a donation. But they have books that walk you through step by step how to talk to your kids, even just about sexuality, just about men and women that God created.
Can you say one more time the thing that you just cited?
Focus on the Family.
Focus on the Family.
Yeah.
Okay. Focus on the
it's like a book series. Yeah. That you start out, it's a picture book that just talks about like this is a little boy, and it talks about body parts and things like that that tend to be really hard things for some parents to address.
Right.
But it puts it in a way that's not uncomfortable, and it makes it so that it's common, right? It's a common conversation.
Right.
Because if it's a common conversation when they're 5, it'll be a common conversation when they're 15.
Right.
So if it's something they know you're comfortable talking about, it's really so much better.
Okay, I really need your email after this. Like, you're gonna be my consultant. Okay. All right. And then the two ladies at this table, and then we'll wrap up. Whoever wants rock paper scissors.
Bouncing off that, I was gonna say, I've learned with my older son that the conversation does need to be regular. It needs to be not one time, not 2 times, but like she said, so, but then, just referring also to this really good podcast that I follow that deals with all this, it's called, Media Savvy Moms. It's not just for moms. It's not a Christian podcast, but it deals with every single one of these issues. It's a really, really good one.
Thank you for sharing. Media Savvy Mom. Okay. All right, last one for the night.
What are some parental control websites that you highly recommend? I used Disney and I used a different one before, and they were not as effective as I thought they were going to be.
Honestly, if your children are interacting with technology, like there really isn't, unfortunately, except those that are already like made and curated by like faith-based organizations. And so I just would highly recommend that if that is your intent in your home, that you would do that. And if, you know, you're gonna continue using like the other apps that, you know, you have these conversations. Like I said, we're gonna walk through it next week. What does that look like in application? Like how do you start that? For those of you in here that really are just like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I have this like 10-year-old staring at me. I really don't know what to say. And so, thank you so much for the parents that shared resources tonight. Please email them to me. I would love.
Another one.
Okay.
There's one that's called Our PACT, P-A-C-T, and
Okay.
everyone take a look at it if you want to. I can't vouch for anything I say. It does allow you to mirror what your child is looking into, and it allows you to have real-time access right then and there. You can actually kick them out of the app right then and there.
Okay.
Our PACT.
Yes, so we in our third week will give you a couple of websites that we part of our partner organizations. And so, but yes, thank you so much for the parents. Just to wrap up the night, yes, thank you to the parents who shared, and for the parents who feel like, oh my gosh, you know, she just gave me all of this information, what do I do? So please, this is your instructions for next week. Number one, keep your workbook in a safe place. Like, maybe just keep it in your car, but please bring it back, because this is meant for you to reference, you know, after this workshop is over, for you to come back to this workbook and remember all the work that you put into these past, the following 3 weeks that we'll be together. And then second, invite a friend. This was very informational today. Next week will be, like I said, more application. And so they really didn't miss out on too much. But we also recorded it, and also I'm more than happy to catch them up on, you know, anti-trafficking, human trafficking, the hypersexualized culture, and the connections. I'm more than happy to do that with any new people next week. And then if you have any questions on your way out, if you have questions, you can ask me for my card. I have my cards up here. I have my email up here too. If you have any questions after this workshop, email me. I'm more than happy to answer these questions. But all in all, thank you so much, you guys. Have a